Okay, welcome everybody to the Finance and Property Committee, despite this frigid day that we're experiencing. Before we start, I would like to switch items 6 on the agenda and 7, switch those around. So on 6 we're doing budgets and on 7 we're doing financial efficiency, if that's all okay. The emphasis today has got to be on fixing the precept, if not the budget, for that's got to be finalised and forwarded to tendering formally next week. So if nothing else today, we've got to arrive at the precept and hopefully that budget to go with it. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Hound.
Okay. We're on the minutes of the last meeting of the 10th of December. There's just 2 points I think arising. One is there's mention of the CCLA Investment Bank, which Councillor Pavely will comment upon.
Well, we've agreed to invest in it now, and it's just a case of how do we want to do that in the sense of how much we should put into it. Remember, 85,000 is irrelevant on this particular case. It is paying, or has historically paid, obviously, last year, something in the region of 5%. We have £85,000 deposited in the Unitary Trust deposit account, but that is only paying, I think it's 2.68%. And I just wonder, as assistance to Tracy, whether we should make a decision to book a large amount into the CCLA and use the Unitary one as the more flexible one, where she needs to top up her day-to-day accounts from it, being that's the most advantageous on the interest rate. I just think we need to sort of agree to that as it is a non-guaranteed amount.
What would you recommend?
Well, I think we should put at least, say, 100,000 into the CCLA, and then put the rest of it into the Unity. At the same time, by the way, drain the Barclays, because remember that we've still got £40,000 now. I can't remember what the numbers are now, but certainly, we've still got a reasonable amount of money into Barclays, and that's making 0.5%. Oh, we've got 80,000 still in the Barclays. So I think we should take that out. Maybe what we should do is take the £80,000 out and put it into the CCLA and leave it.
Yeah. I think that's a good recommendation.
Yeah. I think we're going to establish it. We've also got a cash flow forecast, so we can have a quick look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, this has all been approved. Anyway, it's just how we...
I think it was just giving Tracy some help in actually how to manage it. That's all.
Exactly.
Happy to second that if you make that.
Yeah, make that proposition.
Okay. All happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, the other item which isn't included in the agenda is just to comment on the statutory grants, which Ian's going to comment on.
Tracy and I met over the grants and looked at the forecast from people receiving grants over the previous years, and what we did was we sent a letter. All recipients of standard annual grant have been contacted and asked for basically, how did they use their grants and copies of accounts, etc. And we've received both of those from All Saints Churchyard, Blessing the Waters, Brightonsea in Bloom, Brightonsea Carnival, Brightonsea Museum. The YMCA also came back and said they will not be applying for their grant next year. They're going to take on the hedge cutting and pay for it themselves.
Good.
So the next stage is now to sit down and work through them again.
Do we do that this meeting or do we do it at the following meeting?
I think we've got time to do it at the following meeting, haven't we? If we sit down and read through what they've responded and...
Yeah, I mean, just we have to get the precept agreed today, and the budget is near standards, but there is an opportunity to refine the budget just a little bit. So I think that gives a little bit of further room to do that. Okay, if
Sorry, can I just interrupt? Just going back to the other item though, something occurred to me. We need to, before we we do anything else, can we just ask Tracy to check how long it takes to take money out of that account? So she's aware of the time frames involved, should it ever happen.
I thought you did tell us that.
I may have done, but I can't remember, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just saying if you could just check that, sorry.
I didn't think it was.
Just so we don't end up with a cash flow problems because we can't get it out.
Yeah. I think it's on demand, but there's.
Yeah, let's just check that, yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments on the minutes, I'll propose them as through record. Everyone happy with it?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to remind you of the requirement to disclose any interest in relation to items on the agenda when these are discussed. Item 4A, Chairman's Summary. Summary is very brief this month because we do want to get on with the budget, which is the key thing. Just a few very brief points, which you've probably picked up, is the Harbour Commission lease on the jetty was finally signed. It's taken almost exactly 12 months to negotiate that, but it's been done.
3 years, I think.
Well, you could argue it's 7 years. That's actually since we went to pen and paper, actually. But there we go. It's actually in force. It commenced on signing, and we're invoicing for the first lease payment in the next week or two. The good thing about it is it gives us some certainty when we're trying to set the budget, because it does have a big impact on that. So that's good. In general, we're pretty close to the target that we set in starting last April. So by the year end, we should be pretty close. Unfortunately, there's a few write-offs, which you're aware of, the Bowling Green and one thing. But even taking that into account, and the fact that we bought a new vehicle, we're in within, I think, probably £2,000 of the target,
Very good.
which
Well
is
done.
important because we can carry that through with, again, with some certainty to set in the budget. And we've got a lot more detail now than we've had in the past. Just mention that the interest payments and the sales division have both done very well and exceeded expectations. Some of the costs, however, drifting a little bit. Fortunately, they're not the big costs, but they need a little bit of scrutiny, and we're going to come to that a little bit later. So, in general, financial situation okay at the moment. Just one last comment on that is the play group. We've now, those who don't know, we're trying to agree a lease with the play group. We've now a survey report. There are some works that require doing to the property before we can hand it over, should we get to that position. So we've got to allow for that. Again, we'll come to that a little bit later. We've had a condition survey. The heads of terms of the lease are based on a fully repairing and insuring lease. So if we once get the works done, hand it over, then it becomes the responsibility of the play group. And we're trying to sort out the final utility payments, which go back some time. Right now, they are fairly high, as you'd imagine. Okay, so that's the summary. There's some figures to go with that. And all we would like to say is that the estimated year-end position, that's March this year, and that's carried forward to the budgets and budget analysis. So that's how that works. Is there any queries on that, or we all happy? Okay. Okay, then moving on. Then item B is the financial monthly overview, which Chris.
Thank you very much. Just to inform members, income during December was £3,387.10. Expenditure was £32,159.86. And the bank balances held in all accounts totals £159,152.38.
Everybody happy? Okay, for C is the debtors list. see that the biggest debtor is actually Kendrick District Council. They owe for the outstanding car park money. And apart from the play centre, which you're aware of, then I think it's a relevant authority. What we're trying to do right now is to make sure that the debt list doesn't start off a very long list again at the beginning of next financial year. If you can remember back, for example, there's lists and lists of town guide debtors, and we're trying to make sure they're paid up front this time around, so we're trying to make sure the debtors list isn't quite as horrific as it normally is. Other than that, I think all is well.
But it's certainly reduced in numbers.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay, now 5 is the examining of the accounts.
Here again.
Which is Chris.
Yeah, I require two councillors at the end of the meeting, please, to confirm 19 payments in the sum of £7,440.61. However, 9 of these payments were paid before Christmas, which totaled £2,554.94. Please.
Sure, I can stay because John and I are meeting up after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
And actually, just to inform Councillor Atkinson and Paisley that when the payments are being authorised, the salaries are on there for this month with tomorrow's date, so they need authorising today for payment tomorrow on the 15th. So that's the first one.
So we're using Unity.
Yes, because Barclays stopped the facility in
Yeah.
December.
Same cost?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, then, so we're now at budgets, which is the report this year. Just a few points before we start with the numbers. If we are pretty close to the target this year, and we could find another 25,000 reserves next year, then we'd be in a very clear position. So if we achieve this year what we think we will, we're okay. But if we could put another 25,000 on our reserves, then we are in a very comfortable position. Just to be smart. Don't have to, we're okay, but that would put us in a very, that would move us definitely to green.
Can you remind us what is the preferred amount of reserve? What we should be trying to achieve?
Between 3 and 6 months of the precept.
So that would need another 25,000. Yeah. Okay.
And that would get, I mean, there's all different versions, but I know the internal auditor would be delighted if we could do that, but we don't have to, we're okay. We just looked, we've got to try and decide what's happening in the economy, and suggesting at the moment we use an inflation figure of 3% for next year, so that affects generally price increases and cost increases. There's much debate going on about it, as you're probably aware, with TV, but most of the smart money seems to be on around about 3%. So I would suggest that that's, well, that's the figure we've used in these figures. We can change that if you wish. Just very briefly on, so we're intending, or these figures will apply 3% price increases generally. I mean, if there was a desire, we could perhaps reduce those for sports players if we want to encourage recreation or whatever. The only exception to 3% is that we put 8% on the external events, because we've checked and they seem to be very undervalued at the moment. That's down on the Western Province of them. So at the moment, January, it's a 3% figure in these analysis, which I said we can change if we want. So the idea is to try and find, for today, we'll try and find a fixed point. So if we can agree that, then at the end we'll start doing some horse trading about how we spend it and how that features, where the emphasis lies. So that's the process. Just before we get to the numbers, The pay award dominates
Yeah.
the whole situation, and I've some notes that you should have received. Last year, to try and equalise things, everybody got a £1,900 fixed payment. And the likelihood is that that will happen again. So at the moment we assumed a 2,000 fixed payment based on full-time equivalent. If you do that and you allow the new budgetary NIC, it comes to an 11% increase in our expenditure.
On wages.
Yeah. If you look at the other way, and if you looked at our Chancellor has just made a statement that she believes that 5.5% is the appropriate increase. But if you take the 5.5%, if you take that figure and you add the NIC on, you get a figure of 9%. So we've got, it's a big figure in our analysis, so we have to decide which one we're going to go for. So we'll come back to that and then do that. So we can get it all involved in, you know, what the increase in advertising cost would be, but it's dominated, and so we need to be aware of that.
I mean, salaries are 60% of their total costs.
Yeah.
So I mean, 11% is 11% on 60% of their costs.
And then 5.5% turns it into 9%, and it's 9.1%.
Yeah.
It is significant.
Well, we'll look at that next.
So that's just there's a few other notes there, but that's where we are. So if you could have a look at the numbers.
So are you suggesting we should do the 8.1%?
Well, no, that was a general comment. I want to go through the numbers
Okay.
and look at what our options are. If that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's based on what we did last time, but theoretically simplified a bit. It didn't look like that. So you've got so the left-hand column is just the figures transposed from the predictions for the end of this year. So that's where we're starting from. Then we've got to arrive at the budget. So just to move things forward and come back to this, but if you look at the green and the magnolia figures, they're all that doesn't help. Well, you can work it out.
No, I'm working. I was working.
So if you look at the green and the magnolia, those are figures that there's not a lot of debate to have. It's based on this year's figures or other factors or what the rate increase is for business rates, which we've got no control over. So just for starters, I'm suggesting we'll leave the green and magnolia and concentrate on the red. Okay? And then we'll have to go around a few times and say iterative process the colour, don't they? Put that one in a minute. Iterative process. So if we go down the red ones, which are the key ones, we'll get to the precept. If there's a difference in mathematical increases and the headline increases because of the formula the tendering use. So if you look down at the precept, we increased that from 231,000 to 254, which is a headline increase of 8.1%. So we'll go around in circles, but just for the time being, that's 8.1. Then if we look at the next red line on the sales, that's the boat park. We've put a net value of 30,000. We haven't gone through all, we obviously don't know who's going to turn up and come back and whatever. I think that's probably, as a net figure, I think that's now a little bit optimistic. But we have to put, so at the moment we put 30,000 net. The other bad news is that we've been trying to look at whether VAT is relevant. And there's an ongoing discussion, but I think we're, at the moment, as a council, we're losing the argument. I think if you're a commercial company, you would take one decision, but as a council, probably have to take the other decision, which is the pessimistic one, regrettably. But there's still a debate going on, and we've got some experts advising us on that. So all is not yet lost, but it's not looking as hopeful as I thought it would. So sorry about that. So that's the income line. Then we go into the costs. And one decision is transport machinery. Next year we're due for a new vehicle. As you know, this year we bought the new vehicle and we're effectively buying it outright. So I don't think there's any suggestion we do that on the second vehicle. And the argument would be, do we actually want a second vehicle? At the moment, if you take the £22,000 which we put in there, that could just about get us a second vehicle. It'd be contract hire, or members would buy a used one, or even better, if we could extend hours for another 12 months. It's very low mileage, that would be great. So at the moment, the 22,000 figure would sort something out, but it wouldn't be very exotic. So that's a decision we have to make. Then we get to the payroll salaries, and it depends which figure you want to use. If you use the £2,000 per head, then that comes to 234,000, which we've included here. If we went for the 5.5% plus NIC increases, then it's 19,400. Those figures are summarised in the little box at the bottom. So at the moment we've used the higher figure, we could use the lower figure. So we'll come back to those figures in a second. If we then look at the other one, is the special constable scheme. Well, that depends on what we're doing about policing, which we'll come to a bit later. At the moment, we just put in the budget we've always had it. So if you accepted those figures, you end up with an operational surplus of £39,000. So that's not quite the end of the story. But what I was trying to do is to get, we go round and round in circles, probably should do, but if we just fix the £39,000 before we go to the next decision making tree, then, so I don't know, at that point, do we have any observations or?
I'd like to make one observation that actually if you look at the increase in precept and you look at the increase in salaries, precept increase doesn't cover it.
That's right.
So in fact to actually consume the inflation, we've got to make cuts just to keep up with the inflation.
And what we're actually doing in effect is starting to eat into our newfound prosperity at the boat park.
Yeah,
because
basically we've used that.
Yeah, there isn't any increases anywhere else because they're all fixed lease payments. Jane?
I'm against an 8.1% increase, and I've always been against that amount. I do, and I say this every meeting, please put it in pence if it's possible as well, because that makes more sense. People don't. There isn't another council that's going up that high. So I am against that, and perhaps to offset that slightly, I think the salaries, which we know is probably 10%, we could take that down to 10%. I know it's only knocking off 1%, but I'm sure we would still cover ourselves because we're talking about 9% possibly. But I just feel with the cost of living at the moment that for us to go out and say we're going up over 8% is...
Can I jump in on there? Just to say that the Band D rate for 24-25, based on precept of 231526, was £76 and 7 pence. And if you have a precept for 25-26 of £254,700, the Band D rate goes up to £82.24, which is an increase of £6.17.
That's 8%, is it?
So if you divide that by 52 weeks of the year, it's 11 pence. You've got to work on pounds and pence, not the percentages.
Yeah, I think people would understand the pounds and pence, but unfortunately it goes out on their council tax bill as an 8% increase. So I would rather, even if we come down to the 7.1 and lose the 1% from the staff wages side, I don't know, I just...
Okay, I absolutely agree with Jane. I think it's a time to be careful because people are hurting, and I think we did put our precept up a lot last year to balance these books, and I think it's incumbent on us to show restraint for the ratepayer to come in with the lowest figure which makes sense. And if the government is saying around about 5.5, I would have thought that was the sort of level I would be looking at. And I'd be looking at the costs because taking our costs from 349 to 386, you know, where every government department is screaming that there's going to be no increases in costs, I think this is where we need to attack. And I think there could be enormous savings by attacking them.
Sorry, can I just come back? Coming back slightly, the grant situation, the YMCA has already come back and say they're not claiming £1,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, yes, we've got to balance our books, and yes, we need to get ourselves out in the muddle, but we do have little bits we can work with.
John?
I tend to agree. As much as I'd love it to be 8%, I think we'd be a little bit not quite right to the public to do that. I think to be honest, Dave, there may be cost savings in your budget. I know that we were looking at renegotiation for the refuse disposal.
Yeah.
That's quite a big chunk in there, nearly £8,000. The grants, James already mentioned. Yeah.
I mean, sorry, man.
It probably are quite a lot of cost savings there
Yeah.
at first glance, but I think once you start diving into this, I don't think you're going to find as much money as what you think. By far and away, the biggest problem you've got is salaries.
Yeah.
So you can tinker with, you know, saving £1,000 here and saving £1,000 there, but it's not going to touch the sides in terms of the overall number. As much as it sounds like a bad thing, 8.1%, then I'm kind of, I'd much rather it be 0%. I'm not entirely sure we're going to be able to get that lower in this meeting today without committing ourselves to something that we are potentially not going to be able to deliver. And we're going to end up in the same situation that we've been a couple of years before, a few years before that, where we're kind of hamstrung. Because so you said that there's lots of areas that we could save money here. What ones are they?
Well, we're going to bring that up to the next item, wouldn't it?
Can I make a suggestion? Can we just sort of stick with that at the moment, and then we're going to go back through it again? I think if we go to the end of the process, we should do that before we start horse trading, really. So if we just for the moment said that you know what the assumptions are, where those figures come from, just sort of freeze that. Then we go to the strategic options, and at the moment, forget Plan C, that's nothing to do with it. But we've got Plan A, B. These are they've fallen from last month, and they're just a few sort of ideas to play around with. So if we carry that figure forward, then we put in, and this pretty contravenes with what we agreed previously, but just for the sake of argument, I've put in, well, the second vehicle I've said just get for the time being. The sale of the beach hut, I've just put in a notion of £10,000 because it has been agreed that we're selling the beach hut. So if we just credited this budget with 10,000, that depends what we sell for or don't, but just for the sake of argument, there's £10,000 of income there. Then if we look at the expenditure, if we look at A and B, we've talked about should we be paying for policing services, which would be very significant, or not. We've talked, so that's a key decision. If we looked at energy efficiency, that was on the basis that we've done nothing at all to reduce our energy demands. We could put an item in for that, or just remove it altogether. Cost contingencies, we've got a contingent further up, but it's not a bad thing to have a few contingencies in there. Landlords improvements, if you look at the playgroup, we've already proven that we're not keeping up with some of the statute regulations on our premises. We're not far off, but I think we do have to put some item in for landlords improvements. We need the statutory surveys, regulations, electrical tests, that sort of thing. So we've got to put in something for landlords improvements, which we haven't had in before. development services, the idea was we've got, if we look at sort of the meetings on strategic development, you know, we've got some ambitious ideas, but unless you've got a label of money to support those, they're not going to get off the ground. If you're looking for finance and that sort of thing, you've got to have something to, there's a few professional costs you've got to expend to get to something which is worthwhile. So that's what that is. Unidentified projects, well, I think we can all identify some, but that's at the moment just it would be nice to have a sum of money to do a few things that, you know, this year it's been a pretty austere budget really, so it'd be quite nice to have a little bit to do it. So if you look at A and B and you take those things, which I'm not for a minute suggesting that's what we end up doing, then it changes the bottom line quite dramatically. So it may be worthwhile just going through the strategic options and crossing a few out, trying to agree a few of those, and then we can see what the whole thing looks like. Because at the moment, option A is a £14,000 surplus, option B is a £33,000 surplus. So if we can narrow that down a little bit, then I think it helps to decide on what we're doing about precepts and all the rest of it. So I don't know if that's going to work. I don't think it's comfortable. We're going to try and look at this thing fairly. So if we just now jump to strategic options, is there any comments on what we should spend in respect of those?
My first comment is on the income actually, the beach hut. You said that has to be ring fenced for good quarters.
Well,
So you could say that that could just then go against the grant line.
yeah. Or if you take the £10,000 out, you could also take out some unidentified projects which could be for the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
I just wonder if, landlords' improvements, I just wonder if they should be in the actual budget, because some of those are statutory improvements, aren't they?
Yeah. That,
I mean, you know, we're breaking the law if we don't do them, and I just think that some of those, and I'm not saying we've got to do them all, but some of those are, we're obligated to do them, so I think they should go in the budget.
no, I mean the idea is that when you agree these go back up into the budget.
Yeah, okay.
But
Yeah.
just highlighting, and for example, landlords' improvements. There's some things we've got to do, but some things we defer to the following year. But there should be an item for landlords' improvements, definitely. So, I mean, if we just went down, the last month, the big issue was the policing. So, what's the latest thoughts on?
So the latest correspondence with the police is that they've given us figures to go back to the Project Quasar, which came to this committee last time, but there was no action on it. Probably because the policing of the town has become better and the vandalism has become less. That's not to say the future there. The monies that we've had in for the Special Constable scheme, which was £1,000, the notation was £1,000, we've never spent yet, have we?
No.
In 3 years, I don't think we've ever spent it.
Yeah, sorry. I've got to agree with John, but I wouldn't like to see it
Just
disappear totally either, because it's something we said we were going to work on, wasn't it, a special constable? The fact is, nobody wants to be specials. And if you listen to what the future may hold with police, then there may not be specials or PCSOs anyway.
No.
So I wouldn't want it to sort of totally disappear, because I feel if it's there, then we can make the option halfway through the year to use it to boost the police presence. But you're right, the police have been around much more. But like everybody else, you know, Essex Police are going to lay off 350 police officers. So, you know, it's...
And it's a good sort of there. It's not a lot of money, is it?
What was there was different amounts that they came to us with, like a menu of options. What were the 3 amounts? Can anyone
I can't recall the amounts, but I do recall that none of those amounts, what we had saved on our £1,000 contingency.
Oh yeah, but we were talking about £5 grand, 10 grand.
Yeah, I seem to remember the full-blown April to October, 2 shifts a week was something like 14.
It was 14.
And then the next one down was 10, and I can't remember the other.
I think if we, personally, I think starting off with the lowest investment level, getting rid of the special constable scheme money, putting it into the lowest investment level out of those three. Let's say it's I don't know, £8 grand. That's a good start point. I think the police have been here a lot more, but that's because we're kind of their gaze is directed towards us at the moment. That's not going to carry on like that, and you know, crime naturally reduces outside the summer anyway. The kind of crime we're talking about.
I mean, the argument people are paying twice.
Pardon?
The argument from the...
Well, I think that argument will always be there, but the fact that they have been so far so reactive to what's been happening in our town means that we ought to be proactive to what they've been doing. So,
Yeah, I just don't think it's sustainable what they're doing.
No.
What they've done.
No, well,
It's not sustainable. This is the only way we get a sustainable presence-ish.
I mean, just doing it the way I suppose I'd have done it in my own company was look at the biggest numbers first.
yeah, start.
I'm just interested that our insurance hasn't come down, Dave, because I thought we're no longer insuring the jetty, and that was quite a considerable amount of money.
It hasn't. I think there is... it was 3,500, but equally insurance costs have just gone through the roof.
All right.
Okay.
So,
So
okay.
that's why it hasn't changed.
Yeah, lose one. Okay, and the other one, I think we really need to consider, the big glaring one other than the salaries is this transport machinery and second vehicle. I mean, is it, we need to really sit down about that one, because I mean, that's the largest chunk really. I mean, on top of that we've got maintenance, so is that, how much of that 22,000 is actual vehicle and how much is machinery? Was that, or is the machinery and the maintenance?
Transport machinery is fuel. The biggest one is actually the rates, the lease hire, the hire charges, and repairs to the labels, and repairs to machinery, the grass cutting equipment, that sort of thing.
Right. I don't know whether you can eliminate that completely, but there must be some way we can do something with that number.
Well, the possibility. I mean, we've got trying to think big numbers. So have we got an agreed view on the police? We're obviously going to save £2,000. I'm not going to pay for the police and have special constables. I mean, we can go round and round circles. I'm not saying now we've got to say that's it. I was just saying to get a better feel. Would you like to take the £2,000 out, go for £10,000 of supplementary policing, which is a net increase of £8,000 on these figures?
Yes, but hopefully there'll be a saving on that because the lowest investment level will probably be less than £10,000.
So we're going to have a supplementary police reserve.
Yeah.
So we put it as reserve. So again, this we'll go round and round and round. But so just for this next exercise, we'll go for £8,000 policing, which is that's a net increase of £8,000.
Okay.
Is that right?
Can I just ask a question on the parish hall, 14,500? What exactly? What's 14,500 about?
Well, it's all costings
To run it.
in the parish hall.
Heating, lighting.
Computers.
It's. I mean, this year we hit a bit with IT, general maintenance, and that sort of thing. When we come to, I think there's things we can do there.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is rather than budget we feel confident we can do.
Yeah.
But then a bit later on in a minute you'll see what we could maybe do to do better. But it's a bit dangerous to fix a budget on the assumption that we might be able to do this and that.
I
So
think
that's what.
with your strategic options, A, B, and C, I mean, it's always a bit like putting your finger in the wind, isn't it? It's not quite sure which way it'll go. But I suppose you've got to always go in the middle. That would be more feasible.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're trying to forget A and B. We're trying to find
A flat.
A plus or something, or X or something.
Can I suggest just to bring it on a little bit so that it might make it a little bit easier? The beach hut thing, the £10,000 the beach hut thing, which this council agreed that it ought to be put in for good residence uses. Why can you not put that into a ring fence fund within grants of discretionary, not standing, but discretionary, to allow then the council to critique any discretionary grants that come in and then use that funding for that.
I think at the moment our discretion is just like materials.
Yeah, they haven't done anything.
Okay, right.
But
I would like to see it as a step.
I think
gives
somebody
an opportunity.
mentioned about, you know, using some of it as grants because it is for the good of the
It
town,
is for the
which
good
is
of the
what
town.
our policy was going to be, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah, it's the numbers. I mean, we're assuming it's selling. Big debate about it
Well,
last
it was
night,
last night, yeah.
but let's just assume it sells at 18,000. I think it was agreed that 5 would come back into our own coffers
Yeah.
because that's what we paid for it.
Yes.
And the rest would go into the grant. So I think for these numbers, you can assume that we'll get 5 out of that to go into ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of it should just be put aside into a grant fund.
Yeah.
And it takes it out of the game then and doesn't confuse us. Yeah?
mm,
I agree, Chris. The only thing is that standing grants, you just can't control them. Council can't control them. And if suddenly a standing grant is going off the beach hut, is going to the churchyard, is that right? I don't know.
No, well, I think we should actually put the excess into our client account
Okay.
so it doesn't get touched. And we've got standing grants already in there, haven't we? Grants,
It's a
yeah.
discretion.
Standing and discretionary,
Yeah.
£9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is effectively standing.
Yeah, the standing
yeah,
ones, well, they're in
we've
there.
done discretion.
So the excess of the 18,000 after we've taken our costs out,
Will be discretion.
we'll go to discretionary, put it into the client account and use it like that. And it's also- Yeah, and it's transparent.
Yeah.
So are we saying that we're at the moment, so we're going to say was we give a net credit of £5,000 into the pot from the beachhead?
Yeah.
Mm.
Actually, it's slightly more than that, whatever we paid for it, which basically. Sorry?
It was 5.
Oh, it was, okay, 7. And I think we shouldn't commit to what goes into the discretionary pot, because I'm assuming we'll have to pay commission.
It's about 900.
No. So that whatever's left goes into the client account.
But also, as we've just said, we've taken the standing grants down 1,000 already with the YMCA.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for answers from other people that have been getting them, and until we get those answers, we might be able to find we're taking it down a bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to keep with the sums here. So,
Come on.
right, so just to go through some of these, this was suggested last time we had an item for energy efficiency, simply because we don't do anything we should do, but that's Plan A said 5,000, Plan B said 2,000. You don't go for 2,000, maybe you start. Any views on that?
It would be good to actually action something here, because the year before, we had quotes in to turn all this lighting into more energy efficient lighting.
Yeah.
We've also had quotes in for the windows,
But they didn't need
but they
doing.
didn't need doing. The
Door.
doors definitely needed doing. And if we're talking of energy efficiency, probably within the kitchen, may just need a little bit of.
Yeah, I think, the landlord's improvements, that was things like repairing doors and windows and things.
Well, I think
But-
I was talking about energy efficiency. The door is just
Well, so
So can I come in on that? But there's also an awful lot of companies now, because I've just done it at the shop, that will come and do you and give you their own grants for energy efficiency. I'm just changing my electricity contract over. There's no daily standing charge. And the rate is what I'm paying now.
yeah.
So, what I'm paying, I think it's gone up a penny a unit or something. But I've got no standing charge for 3 years.
But if you look at the world at the moment, it's going to go up. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but I've already signed in, and
Yeah.
it's only been done in the last couple of weeks. Signed the new contract, so there is companies out there that are coming in, and they've been down to have a look, basically.
Well, should we? If you put £2,000 in, you could improve the controls in this building. So,
Yeah.
which are hopeful.
Yeah.
That'd be about your limit. You may get match funding and make it £4,000, but should Should we put
Yeah.
two in a
Sure.
token?
Yeah.
Because we've got a.
We've got to agree these numbers today.
Yeah, I'd say we've got to get the budget good enough so we
To
can
do
decide
the
on the
preset,
preset. And there's still a bit of room on the budget, but we should try and get pretty close. Otherwise, it's going to be preset.
Yeah.
So, no, I say we'll go around again, but so notion is £2,000 on the division. Cost contingencies. Are we happy? What about
What are cost contingencies?
just what we don't know? It's nice.
Just in
it's
case.
just a minimum, really.
Yeah.
How about should we put £1,500 in?
What did we spend last year? On that? Nothing.
I mean, they get wrapped up with other
Yeah.
things. It'd just be nice to see.
Yeah, go in the middle, 1,500.
If you add that to your line 38, you've then got less than 3% contingency.
Sorry, say again?
So you've got, on line 38, you've already got contingencies in at
Yeah.
2,000. If you put another 1,500 in, you're going to be about
Yeah.
3.5, which is less than 1%.
Yeah, I mean,
One is,
it can't be a few contingencies, can it?
it's not much of a contingency, is it?
Well, I don't think we used it much last year, did we, or the year before? I can't
I
remember.
don't know. I think we have, but we've not taken it out of contingency because we've made money out somewhere else.
I mean, it's worth arguing about, isn't it? Really? I mean,
No, it's not enough money, but I just made.
if one will go back to the both parts.
There's not enough. There's not a lot of contingency.
Just so we can do the next lap. £1,500, is that okay?
Yeah.
The landlord's improvements stress that's to do some statutory things that we don't do and should do, and also just to improve things a little bit. We could, I think we should have a minimum of £5,000 for that. Well, that's going to get swallowed up anyway with the pavilion.
Yeah, I agree.
So should we make that the smaller value, 5,000?
Yeah.
Should we leave unidentified projects out of this for the time being?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 8.5 from. So at the moment, we're looking, without any unidentified projects, we're looking at £23,000. We're looking at, sorry, we're looking at, I'll check this in a minute, we're looking at 28,000, 3.5, yeah, 28,000.
And that's based on the 8.1.
But that's still based on 8.1.
So, and just to give you an idea, every 1% come down takes 2,300 out of that 28,000.
Oh, wow.
Every 1% of what?
Of the increase. So if it's 9, if it instead of 8.1, it's 7.1. It takes 2,300 out of the bottom line.
I'm still for that. We've got to start at the 6, haven't we? You did say that your desire is 25. So you're above your desire.
To get to 25, you've got to come. You still got to be at 6.1. Because they're, we're approximately mathematically worked it out.
I mean, the 25, I mean, we don't want to push it too tight because again, the boat part, we're relying on that and it's uncharted waters. We've done our best, but it's still early days. We don't really know.
It's a very much a forecast thing than a reality, isn't it?
Yeah, but we don't know. Again, because cost of living, maybe people don't want to opt the boats anymore.
Well, we do. They're all sat there.
Well, it's still, but we're not.
And the response to Julie's been very positive, hasn't it, coming in?
Yeah.
So I think,
Is it?
yeah,
Oh, yes, very good.
it has been good.
I know when you're full though.
I don't think, in reality, I don't think it was ever nearly full when Harbour operated it.
Well, that's not true. They had a waiting list, and we've now got the waiting list.
Oh, have
Yeah,
they?
Yeah, for bigger
We've got
spaces.
bigger boats. There's
Yeah.
service of little ones.
Mm.
So just so at the moment we've got just get this right. We've cut the operational surplus down to 31,400. We're then going to add the 5,000 36,400, and then we're going to have 3.5, 8.5. Yeah, so it's 28,000. But that's at 8.1%. So if you want to go to, you did the figures for 5%, didn't you?
5% increase brings the precept amount to 247,500.
So that would take our surplus to 21,000.
Did the government recommend 5.5?
I just did my best, but they just recently said they're going to try and hold public sector pay increases to 5.5%. I mean, which is less than one's already given. But I mean, who knows? I mean, interest rates going to fall, and predicting stagflation or something. It's not good. I think that's above our pay grade. But at the moment, that was the official line, is 5.5%.
Do we know what districts and county are going to be doing? Because I saw every district council that I've seen is doing 4.99.
Yeah, they are. Tendering's doing the same. I'm sure they are.
Using their reserves probably.
We don't know about. But they're
No,
limited.
considering
They're
all-
limited to 4.99, aren't they?
Yeah.
County isn't, I don't think.
No county can.
But if you go to if you go to 5.5% and you add in NIC, then it goes up to 9%.
Okay.
So if you go to 4.9%, it's going to go to 7.5%, 7.8%.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about I'm talking about council tax.
Council tax
Oh,
is
sorry.
4.9. Most of them, I think, are.
Yeah,
Because if not, they've got to go and get permission, haven't they?
I've seen about 10 of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know about county. What county's going to be doing?
I just.
Who said that? Did you say that we would be the highest? But have other people told us what the precept is going to be?
No, they keep
Yeah,
it
because
very
everybody will go in, won't they, to tender.
No, I thought it said we would be the highest in the land or something.
No.
No, I think we were high last year. I think, as Rick said, we went in quite high last year to try and balance the books. I just don't think people will understand, you know, if tendering come in at 5%, 4.99, county come in at 5%, we go in at whatever. They don't look at, it's pennies, they look at the percentage. We know the police are going to go in with a really high. And I know the fire brigade are increasing theirs, but they've always been much lower than the police anyway.
Yeah.
I just think they look at all these percentages.
What in terms of percentage terms, then the decision on the policing is significant.
Yeah,
If we're going to spend £10,000 or whatever, that has a quite a bearing on it. But so we're using our newfound wealth to balance the books out.
so how would we stand if we took out the police on this, and if we needed to, we use the beach hut?
Ooh,
I'm not, you know, I'm just, you know,
just thinking
you're
out loud.
saying using it for public thing. Well, police is the public, isn't it?
Ooh,
I don't know. It was just.
it's a thought,
I
isn't it?
thought that although it has gone through council,
I mean, there's one other way. If you said, let's go with 5%, what did I just say? That's 22.
I'll just check that number because I've got a different number from.
Yeah, but it's because the difference between mathematics and
Because of the council tax base.
so
Yes,
a mathematical
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah, I remember now.
Mathematical 10% equals 8.1%.
Yeah, it's very.
If
margin profit.
so, if you stuck with what we talked about and you had 5% on the precept, what did I say? 22,000. Let's say £20,000. Not a word. The other thing which isn't mentioned, but this was going to be carried through in the next agenda item. But if you looked at the proposed savings, I mean, I would say, it's my background really, but could say we're not going to spend a penny more this year on any cost than we did last year, and that's what a lot of businesses around are doing. And other businesses, I feel for them because they're fighting for survival. We aren't, but so I think we owe it to them to fight hard as well. So just to give you some idea, and this is a bit academic, to be honest, but if you really went in hard and you set up a group to do that and scrutinise everything, there's a potential saving of 15,200.
Absolutely. I agree.
Well, there we are. That's no game.
I absolutely agree.
So, but I mean, we can't build that into the budgets because you'd be foolish to do that.
We haven't done that yet.
So you could say we'll go for 5% on the precinct, or 4.99, I suppose.
Well, we'll go
5%.
I think the public will accept the point.
No, I just do. But then we'll look at these other things we've agreed, and then our recommendation, which will come, I think, when I come to the next item, the recommendation will be we've got to go absolutely full on, aggressive to keep the cost down. And that would, so you could then go from 20,000, let's say you've got half of that, you know, the 27,500.
That sounds good. And that gives us our 25 grand back in what we want to achieve.
In difficult times.
I think we've publicised so often that we wanted to get to this 25,000 to come massively over it. We're going to be questioned, aren't we?
Especially this time.
Yeah.
And what we can do is we could put the police money in the reserve, the amount of reserve. If there's no need to spend it, let's say we get halfway through the year, then we decide we've got to do it, then we've got a whole lot to go for 6 months, or we just give half of it. So,
That's right, yeah.
so it could be an earmarked value.
So it's not taking it out, it's...
We could make 5% interest if we don't spend it.
Let's hope. Thank the council favourite.
Yeah. So do you need something to move that, or I'm going to have to move 5?
Yeah, I mean, what we do have to move is it's the precept, and I would say at the same time the principle of the budgets as agreed.
Yeah.
Is that good?
That would do it.
You do?
Yeah, I'll second.
Help with that?
Okay. In a way, that takes the pressure off to get it to tendering, and then you can start concentrating on the.
Okay, well that's sums it up.
Have you got very long one of those?
I didn't put one on the doorstep when I was still trying. Okay then, so where are we? So we're okay on that now. So then we go to financial efficiency, which we just hinted at. And I think Rick would like to make a few comments on.
Yeah, I would, because I did bring this up last meeting. I mean, it's always taken me that we spend a lot of time talking about spending money and budgets and stuff like that. We never actually spend any time on cost cutting, which just about every business does equally to sales. You spend as much time trying to save money as you do actually to sell goods. It's really important for part of any business, of which we are the same as. It's the same thing, just for different numbers. And I think we owe it to our shareholders all the way, pay whichever you want. And I think we should scrutinise all costs viciously to find a better way, maybe even a new way of getting some of our services. And obviously look for cheaper alternatives, particularly, and take them line by line. And I think we should also look at our labour costs, which is, as Chris has pointed out, is at 60% of our budget, which is horrendous. However, we ought to look at it and scrutinise it for better working practices, alternative, maybe even outsourcing part of, and be aware of the new TDC potential responsibilities that might come our way. And I would think, what we need to do as on the Finance Committee is set up a small task force to regularly meet to chip away at costs. What we used to do on businesses is almost try and find 1 or 2 savings every month or every period and just chip away at them. And it's amazing how you can get costs down. And I think we should spend as much time cost cutting as we do anything else. That's what my view. So I'd like to sort of see a small task force out of this committee set up to do exactly that.
I've got to agree with what you're saying. The only thing I would seriously question is staffing.
Yeah.
And I think we've also got to be very prepared, not next financial year, but possibly the financial year after that, that as tendering starts to close down and fold, more and more is going to come over.
Yes.
And we are going to have to look at employing more staff, not cutting staff,
Yeah.
because we're going to end up with more and more jobs to
We've
do.
always got AI, the goal.
Don't be having in my technology, I don't know what that means.
So the task force could look at that too.
I think that's something
I'm not
that we,
saying-
and it would come under the staff committee anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm all for you, and I would like to come in on that committee, mainly because I can feed it from the staff
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
But I'm more than happy also under the electricity people I'm using is to get them to contact
Yes,
the
there are-
council.
There's one small lot. It doesn't matter you say £500 or £250. It's a saving, and if it makes you feel good, it makes you feel clean. And if it makes you feel like you're doing a good job, just check out the next one, the next one, the next
Well,
one.
the electric, as Dave has hinted, is going to go sky high. Even my shop is nearly £400 a month.
Yeah.
So it's not under the new one, but it was under the old one.
And insurance is another
We
one.
run one heater.
You can put it on the market and make big savings.
No, no, no.
Can I just say that also it's an opportunity as well for us to look at new practices as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So, for example, IT, you know, the world has moved on drastically
Yes.
in the 4 years since I don't know, when did we start using 3C, Tracy?
I've used them for a while.
Yeah, so let's say 7 years.
Yeah.
The world's moved on a long way
Mm.
since then. So I think it's an opportunity not just to save costs, but
Yeah.
also to change.
To look at
Practices,
working
working
practices.
practices.
Yeah.
But I would have a bit of caution because I suspect that Tracy and the staff already do some element of this when they're negotiating new deals and stuff with suppliers. We're probably looking at good value anyway. So we might not end up with the savings that we expect, but
Well, any savings worth it.
yeah.
At least you can say you looked.
At the moment, we're not really spending any
Yeah.
time on it. That was my point.
We've done a few things. I mean, things like the collecting our own lease payments, for example, that save quite a lot.
Yeah.
But we've
Yeah.
just got to expand that on a big scale. I mean, the other thing is, I think the terms of reference should include sales. You know, the sales division's proven paying dividends here, and we haven't even started that.
Yeah.
So the task force should look at that as well. So if that's a good, I mean, I would suggest on the task force, first thing is we do just very simply put it in terms of reference. I mean, I'd be very happy to be involved with it. And
Same here. I'll put your hand up for it.
Well,
I'll put mine up.
Yeah, six, we're going to have all good. Oh, council again.
Can I suggest that we
I want to keep it small.
just do, well, what I was going to suggest is if perhaps, I mean, you already put quite a few ideas on the sales front, on income generation and IT cost saving in the so to start off with perhaps Matt, I don't think there's some terms of reference, very, nothing will happen, just so we know what and how it works.
Yeah, I agree that you should keep it small. And I think that once you've got that small group sort of in place, put it to council, and even if we do that this Thursday, so that we can then talk to the public and say that we've, you know, the precepts can go up, but we've now formed this small group that's going to look at our costs to try and keep savings.
Yeah. You know, things like preferred contractors list, they've got to bid for the work and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, so is that our recommendation?
Yeah.
Anybody proposing that?
I'll propose
A
it.
second.
Okay, that's, have we got any other business?
Public.
Okay, gentlemen, would you like to ask questions from the gallery?
Yeah, well, you go first,
No,
one.
go on, Richard, go on.
Well, on the online paper, you've got the jetty. Now that you can't put a hammerhead on the bottom, what is the financial viability of it? And the online paper says that £75,000 MMO, you may have to pay money back. I don't know whether this information is correct because it's still on the paper. And if so, have you got the reserves if they decide to claim any money back? And there was somebody saying that you could sell the jetty, but that's only what I've read on the online newspaper, so I've come to the horse's mouth to ask that. position is, please.
Well,
I'm happy to take it and then you can follow.
yeah.
There's an awful lot of stuff out there that's not quite true.
No, that's all right, yeah.
We haven't been told that we have to give the money back.
No.
We've been asked by the MMO if we can come up with a new plan post-COVID for what we could do
Yeah.
with the asset. That's the first thing. The second thing is that and it was unfortunate that strategic thing going down the bottom couldn't be realised, but you know that's the way things are. The second thing really is that asset, after 5 years of the grant being formed, belongs to the town.
Oh, yeah.
And we've only got, I think, 2 years left of that to do. Now, would we sell it? I don't know. That's a thing in 2 years for the council to talk about. And the final thing is that, really, for me, is that there is an awful lot of chit-chat out there that, whilst it's good that you listen to it, you must take...
Yeah, well, that's written on the online paper. That's where I've come from.
Yeah.
They put it on there. That was as simple as that.
Oh, and my final thing is that this council has built that thing exactly as per the grant application and
Yeah.
exactly as per the application. It hasn't done anything different.
No, that's all I want. That's all I wanted to know. Be accurate.
I'm just going to add that obviously the council will respond to the MLO, and there was that was done.
Yeah.
But be assured that the value in the pontoon, the heritage pontoon, is a very worthwhile investment. It could be resold easily.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because you cannot buy better pontoons than those more.
Across the other side, which you had a plan.
Well, there's
That's
everyone.
a plan.
It would be easy to
Yeah.
sell. So the council would never lose
No.
on them.
So that's why it's not. It's just the online thing. That was what they put on there.
I think, to be honest, it's very difficult, isn't it, sitting here, getting all of this buzz, this conversation, and trying to sift out what's the truth and what isn't. So it's difficult for us. It's even worse for the residents.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, it's in the old days you would have somebody from the Standard come. And they'd write, they would sit here and they'd write it all down,
right.
you know, and it'd be in the column like Mr. Lord, you know, it'd be there. But of course, social media, that's just the way it is. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
3 questions, if I may.
Oh.
On that front. Continuing with Richard with Heritage Jetty, when the gig races are on, they won't be charged for using that jetty, would they?
I believe Rick may come in on this, and the chair may come on this. I believe that comes under the tourism type thing.
So the gigs, when they say 13 gigs, if they're moored on that jetty, would they be charged, yes or no?
Well, they've never been charged.
Well, we've never charged them.
Oh,
and
so-
we haven't got any plans to
So
charge
when
them.
I go back to the rowing club saying, if you have a festival, the gigs go on there,
I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but as an individual, I would have bought that.
I have visions of the harbour commissioners charging the town jetty for going alongside.
So it's not in the Harbour Commissioner's remit for charging yet.
No. Anyway, right, second questions, going back to the costings.
Toilets.
One thing that really does make me cross, paying extra for police, they said paying twice for the same level of service. You're probably aware of this. And the second question is, the last one, but which has been, again, which I feel very cross about.
Toilets?
If the town council's maintenance department don't do these jobs, they wouldn't be done. Like the cycleway down by All Saints Church, the town council makes that clear. As it's kept, that these authorities should be charged for services that we do, even for tendering services. That this is where savings can be made.
Yeah.
Send them an invoice, 10 grand for doing this, 10 grand for doing that. They don't jump up and down then.
Well, you're not sweeping an iPad for 10 grand.
I think that's it. The police, we're putting that money into reserve, so it's handy to have a reserve, and we're watching the position. And then I think that part of the clearing us and doing work that we shouldn't be doing is part of the task force responsibility.
Can I just mention something about the police? So on the police, it's like they think they're giving us the resources that we deserve. and we think we need more from that. So this summer we saw quite a lot of antisocial behaviour, and it was only because town council and councillors did so much kind of pressurising them to kind of do something different from what they were committed to doing. But that's not sustainable. We're not going to be able to do that every year. I've got the ump as much as you have in terms of paying twice for something. But the bottom line is we're paying for it and not getting it at the moment. This is really the only way we're going to get a police presence on a regular basis at the times that we think we need it.
But it's your job to pressurise the police. That's what the council's
You're
for.
right. It's
Not to spend out money
I
twice.
get that. But what we did this summer,
I object to
is-
money being spent
Okay.
by us to
right?
the police.
I'll be honest with you. The efforts that we put in this summer as volunteers is not sustainable. It's just not, and I know that because I was one of them that was doing it. We're not able to do that much all the time because it took up so much time. There was about 3 or 4 of us that dedicated so much time and effort to this.
That's not
Do
your
we
job
want-
to do it yourself. Your job is to get the authorities to do it.
No,
Just volunteering to go and
walking
cut
around-
hedge isn't being a good councillor.
Say again?
Going and cutting hedge yourself isn't being a good councillor. That might be being a good person.
I'm not saying it is,
But-
being a councillor.
To say that, oh, because we're volunteering, we're going to pay twice. That's not right. Your job as a councillor is to get these organisations
No,
to do it, not to go and do it yourself.
We're talking about policing.
All your voluntary stuff. You were talking about voluntary work.
Okay,
how much was
me
done.
being a volunteer on the regatta committee is not. What, should I just let them do that themselves, or?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, no, it's very different, isn't it? The policing, I don't want to pay any extra, but the bottom line is, we're not going to get what we want and what we feel we deserve.
And
Without paying for it.
can we say point noted?
Yeah, if you want.
So,
But I just don't like someone telling me what I should be doing as a councillor.
Well,
I don't like you saying how to spend
okay,
my
okay.
money.
but
Chair,
it's
well,
worth-
that's
can I-
That's
It's
the
worth
job of
noting-
a councillor.
It's worth
Yeah, don't
noting,
know.
Chair, that we did meet with the Essex Police, Ellen, whatever her name was, and she was the senior officer. And it was a very disappointing meeting in the Coney Club, whereby she took the stance of spouting statistics to us about Brightlingsea being the safest place in the universe. We were congratulated for 0 crime. And we sat down there absolutely stunned, which then boosted us to go back to them after that meeting and go, actually, you're wrong.
That is your job as a
And that's
councillor,
what we
isn't it?
did. And we did as a council. We went back and said, no, you're not right. Your statistics may be that, but actually our statistics are this. And that, I think, helped Sergeant, what's his name? The nice one? Who?
Is it Ben?
Well, whatever. So that sergeant come in and really blitz the town.
That's the point I was
That's
making.
But the
That's the point I was making. That's what
Yeah.
your job is.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
And that's what we did, but it's not sustainable.
Okay, we've got that, honestly, it's not for this.
just to say one thing with this devolution, which is coming, the mayors will be in charge of the police. So
Yeah.
what we're talking about here,
It's
all due respect,
material.
we don't know. I sat through the meeting, and it was a foregone conclusion. Both the Conservatives and Tory Party wanted it. I sat through the whole meeting. You had people, and at the end of the day, they want to be at the top table, and if they hadn't had it, they'd have been imposed on you. But it's going to be a major change. That there is a likelihood that you might get extra, and I'll ask this question at the next Thursday about the parish councils. There is a possibility that you could get extra funding under this system. Gary Scott I was talking to Gary Scott, and Gary Scott knows about Westminster. He was Bob Russell's secretary for many years, who was MP for Colchester. Gary knows his way about Westminster that Alan Goggin doesn't know. No disrespect to Alan, I don't know, but he said there's a likelihood there might be some funding there, and also funding for training. That's what they're going to put in there. But it's difficult for you as parish council because this change is going to be enormous. You've got a town plan coming that you're going to need to be upgraded, because Jane will tell you that the emergency plan comes from Chelmsford. Will it be in place for this? I don't envy it, but the actual reorganisation is going to be massive.
Yeah.
I've read the white paper twice, and I'm still not really sure about it.
Skin of the game.
But I'll leave it at that. Sorry, I just not discuss.
Can I ask
Nathan,
a question of
please.
you?
Yeah,
What you said about the mayors at the beginning,
yeah.
in the meeting I was at, I was led to believe, and this is what I found very disappointing, is that although there'll be possibly 3 or 4 unitaries,
Yeah.
there'll still only be one Essex mayor.
Yeah.
And therefore there'll still be only one Essex police.
Yeah,
under
that's
his
right.
control.
Yeah,
So there
that's
won't really be much change then.
No. Well, there'll be the police commissioner. They'll take on that role. It'll be like the London Senate
Mayor.
Con. Yeah, London Mayor.
Yeah.
There'll be up questions. That'll be exactly
But
the same.
From a resident's point of view, the name's changed from Essex County council leader to the mayor.
It's
No,
like-
no. It's changed from the PFCC to the mayor. So you've already got the structure set up.
Yeah.
The police is nothing to do with county council.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that the structure, all different name, same structure.
Yeah, it'll come into that. There's a lot of things. You know, there's a challenge to on-street parking. They had a white paper. The Conservative Party did. They wanted to have no people parking on the pavement. The Labour Party, with their thing, if you read it, it's going to have to be uniform. So if they enforce this, what's going to happen to the waterside roads? At the moment, they don't enforce it. But if they say, like in London, this is it. It's complicated, but I'll get off of that. Sorry, I'll get away from that.
Okay, can we close the meeting at 11:20? Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you for looking through it. I don't envy your job. I don't envy your job.
Are we doing anything, Jane?
Yeah.
Skin of the game.